Welcome back to 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Glad to have you along here on the program. A lot to get to here on the show. And Georgia, Missouri, set to be a huge showdown in Columbia, Missouri. And joining us from Bulldog Illustrated, Murrary Poole joins us. Murray, good afternoon. How you doing?
How you doing, guys? Good day. A beautiful day of football. We finally get a little football weather, although it's got a little warm again. But that game last Saturday in Athens was really good, 60-something degrees and good wind. So maybe about halfway the season we get into football weather, and we need it because there's some great games again this weekend.
Oh, certainly. In Georgia, Missouri won, featuring two teams in the top 25. Of course, last time Georgia went to Missouri and Columbia, it was the Jarvis Jones show in the second half. Don't know if they're dealing with anybody of Jarvis Jones' caliber on the defense this time around. What's it going to take for Georgia to come out of Missouri with a big win here in 2014?
Well, Kevin, they've got to, they got to start early, I think, and certainly, silence that crowd a little bit. I think Missouri's going to be pumped for, like you just talked about, the game 2 years ago when it was close for three quarters till Jarvis Jones personally took over in that last quarter, and Georgia went on to win 40-21, 41-20, I believe. But they're going to. Georgia's not going to change, I don't think. It's probably the talk you hear about Rice Ramsey going to play more, maybe a little like that. I think they're going to try to give it to Gurley 25 times at least, and try to run inside, the Missouri line. Missouri guys. And the loss to Indiana gave up like 246 yards. So you know what Georgia's game plan is going to be. Feed him a lot. At the same time, maybe with Mitchell and Scott Wesley playing a little more of this game, they will take some shots downfield to back up those DBs, I think. So go in, control the ball, and don't let Matty Mock roll out of that pocket and like he does. He can roll left or right, and he loves to throw downfield. And, of course, that's what he beat South Carolina on that last winning drive, getting some big passes, 40 and 45 yards.
Murray, I know you went out to Columbia West 2 years ago. What type of environment does Missouri have at their home stadium?
It's a great environment. I think it was one of the Georgia fans that went out there that time BJ talked about. They were really great SEC fans and probably more cordial than any place you go to because they wanted to make a great impression with everybody. Their first game in the SEC that year in 2012. And it was really a great atmosphere. They, were tailgating all over the campus, a pretty campus. Flatter than I thought it would be, not too many hills. And, I think when I saw the stadium, I said, well, after you see the mammoth stadiums in Auburn and Athens and Tennessee and all that, it looked kind of like a glorified high school stadium. It had just the one-level seats on one side of the fans where all the Missouri students sit. It did have a two-deck on the home side where the press box is, but it wasn't real high, And I think they're enlarging that stadium, but despite the size of the stadium, they pack it and they're ready to play. And I think it's just a great atmosphere of college football. They're going to be pumped for this game too, because I guess the Indiana game was at home. They didn't play well at all, and I think that game they were probably looking ahead to South Carolina, and it showed how they did go into the other Columbia and beat the Gamecocks that night. So they're going to be pumped. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and they really feel after these few years and played in the championship game last year, BJ, they're a really authentic, bona fide member of the Southeastern Conference, and they're really, really proud about that fact.
Murray, the Georgia offensive line has played very well up to this point, but how concerned should that unit be about some of the pass rushers that Missouri has?
They have a lot of concern, Matt. I think, in scout report, I was talking heavily about those bookend defensive ends. Shane Ray, he's a 6'3", 245-pounder. He was named SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week against that South Carolina win. He's got 8 sacks roughly so far. And the other guy on the other end, 6'3", 260, a bull-like rusher, Marcus Golden. So that presents a problem. I think, though, you're going to see Gurley try to go inside them. Like we talked about, they have been prone to give up a lot of rushing yards. And so they don't want to get Hudson Mason in third and longs with these guys coming at them because I don't know if we can handle them. Even John Theus, and Colton Houston blocking those defensive ends is going to be a tough chore. So I think Georgia wants to, pass from strength on the short 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, but don't get in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, or even behind the change, because I don't know if they can block these two guys. And that's of course, like you talked about, the Tiger strength on defense.
And again, Murray, they do. I've heard the stat a few weeks ago is incredible that Missouri's gotten more sacks than anybody in college football. I believe the last 4 years when they only rush 4 guys. How difficult is that going to be for whoever's playing quarterback for Georgia if Missouri feels like they can get pressure and still drop 7 guys back into coverage?
That's going to be tough. I think, that's why I said it's important to Michael Mitchell, and Scott Wesley, that speed, if they are ready to play. And Coach Rick said that Michael Mitchell's had a great week of practice, really been peppy and everything, and so you're going to see him more than 4 plays this time. And even, last week when they got in the game and they sent him deep, I thought he showed his old speed. It was just a little pass off from Hudson Mason where the defensive back had time to get up and knock it down. But I think that's going to be key. Don't, like I say, Kevin, don't get in a tight situation where you're third and long. And I don't think you're going to see Georgia throwing the ball an awful amount of times. I would think it's going to be around the 17 to 20 like Mason's thrown in most games for. And it's like you say, you want to throw that for strength. I think really gets 6 or 7 first down. Maybe you can, hit the second and 3, second 4 passes. And Mason likes to get it out quick. We talked about a lot of Georgia fans of wish it would Coach Bobo would speed up that offense like he had it last year. He likes to go quick and hit the short ones over the middle. But so far they're pretty well huddling up and, let him take his time calling those singles with Gurley back there beside him. So, yeah, it's going to be key, Kevin. But like you say, I think if they could neutralize that pass rush by running the football, hammering it again, I think that'll be a big thing to take away Missouri's defensive strength a good bit.
You mentioned Matty Mock a moment ago. I know Kevin's a big fan of him. How much do you think he scares the Bulldogs defense?
Well, I think he scares them. When James Franklin got hurt last year, BJ, in the game in Athens, he came in immediately and threw a touchdown pass. So the guy's got great mobility. And one thing I've heard, and I don't know those receivers' names that well, but he's got his 2 favorite receivers he works out all the time with back for this game. So, they lost heavily, of course, in the Beckham, all those guys last year. It really hurt them, to lose the tall receivers they did. But they got some pretty good ones back, and back to the defense a second, guys. That night I was coming back from a Georgia game, listened to the Georgia-South Carolina game that night. I said that those play-by-play announcers for South Carolina Gamecocks were saying this is the most sure tackling team we've seen in a long, long time. They don't miss tackles. They're where they're supposed to be, and I think that all credit to Gary Pinkel, the way he's run that program out here. He's going to have a tough defense. He's going to have a sure tackling bunch. So Georgia's going to really have to block well, and Gurley's going to have the extra yards. What scares you about Georgia still, guys, is it going to come down to that team could stop Todd Gurley or hold him like the 50 yards if that's possible this day time while he's running. But what is he going to do if the ball goes in Hudson Mason's court and have to win a football game? Can he do it? He showed against Georgia Tech last year with that 20-0 comeback win that he could do it. And he passed better than people give him credit for in the rain against Nebraska. But with the Southeastern Conference game on the line, he's been criticized for his lack of arm strength. Can he step up? Can he win a game? And that's what we're waiting to see. And if it comes down to that, and he falters, I think going forward, guys, you'll see more and more of Bryce Ramsey.
Murray, at this point, the big concern for Georgia remains the defense. Do you feel like we've seen improvement out of that unit since the beginning of the season?
I think so, Matt. I think they still get up a fair amount of yards, but you see them now. You don't see guys running quite as free the last couple of games. They're a lot closer to them now. I think one of the complaints is Ramik Wilson and Molo O'Hara having to cover the short routes and drop back into coverage. And a lot of times the complaint is they'll be running with the guy out in front of them, the receivers, and a tight end mostly, and they'll have their backs to the pass, and they just don't recover quick enough to knock that ball down and goes over the head right into the guy's hands. So I think they have improved. I think the guys have bought into and learned more under Pruitt's system as he's gone game by game, and they really I think they're 6th or 7th in the conference in pass defense. That's not great, but it's not at the bottom. So I think they've steadily improved a little bit. Guaranteed Vanderbilt was a foe last week. So, but I have think they proved they seem, and you don't see what we saw last year with looking over each other, holding their hands up, wondering what I'm supposed to do. Confusion maybe. If you saw it at Todd Graff, they seem to know what they do. They're into the position quick, and it's just a matter of these young guys, getting their technique right and being able to knock some more passes down. But like you say, the answer to that, they are really on top of the receivers a lot better than they were, say, 3 games ago.
Murrary Poole, Bulldog Illustrated, joining us here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Murray, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Always my pleasure. You guys do a great job. Keep it up. Thanks a lot.
Hey, we appreciate it. Murrary Poole, Bulldog Illustrated, joining us here on 3 and Out. And Georgia goes to Missouri. Big game there in the SEC East. And you talk about the rest of the remaining East games for Georgia and how it relates to trying to get back into the top 4. SEC West, of course, are going to play each other, have some high-profile games. This might be the highest-profile game in the East that Georgia has left. You talk about Florida. Are they a sexy team? You're going to say, hey, we beat Florida. I mean, I don't know if that's one that's going to boost it. Kentucky has played better this year. I don't think they're certainly on the level of a marquee win coming down the stretch. It may have to come all the way down to Auburn late in the season before Georgia maybe gets enough to boost them up into the discussion of the college football playoff, would it not?
Matt, if Florida loses on Saturday, and that's another conference loss, does the winner of this game win the East? I mean, barring a apocalyptic meltdown, could the East be determined Saturday?
I've said for a long time it's going to come to head-to-head matchups, but it's also going to come down, in my mind, how you fare against the West, because you look at it right now, Georgia's going to have to face Auburn and going to have to face Arkansas. And I think before the year started up, everybody looked at that Arkansas game and said, wow, we got really lucky. We got the Razorbacks. That's the worst team in the West. I think we've seen now Arkansas still may be the worst team in the West, but that's a good football team. You can't go sleepwalking your way through that one. So I think it's going to come down to which team can have some success against the West, and that's it. So for right now, Georgia would be in great shape with a victory over Missouri, but I don't think the East is necessarily going to be determined just based off of what happens this weekend.
A lot more to get to here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. You can tweet at us at Pigskin Radio, at Pigskin Radio. Back with more 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're online at ESPNCoastal.com and on the ESPN Radio app.